Okay, hello. Okay. So yeah, let me just, before we start, briefly introduce the two other speakers and co-organizers. The first person will be Radek from the Czech NGO Reset. Radek is the main author of a very comprehensive and really interesting report about EPH called The Fossil Fuel Hyena. So Radek will be giving us an overview of the various dirty investments by this company and who EPH is. Really a good overview of this company and the problems around it, except for biomass, because that will be shared. So speaking about their biomass investments, I will be sharing a presentation with Karen, who is the coordinator of the biomass finance group. So the group of biomass finance campaigners that is of the Environmental Paper Network. And then after that, there will be hopefully a good bit of time for first question and answers and then discussions. In terms of Q&A, I would suggest that after the presentations, if you have something you absolutely didn't understand after Radek presenting, then please ask it in the chat. But the wider questions and discussions we do at the end of the, and same with myself and Karen, but the wider discussions we'll do after the presentations and the deeper questions to discuss. So only clarifying questions between the presentations. And yes, let me hand over to Radek.
So as was mentioned, my name is Radek, and I'm from Czech NGO called Reset. We are working on the social ecological transformation and mostly in the connections with the grassroots climate movement in Czech Republic. We are working on campaign against the financial institutions and also against the big oligarchs, and trying to find ways how we can make just transition in countries like Czech Republic and so on. And in my team, we are currently focusing on the energy company EPH. And as it is a big company that is presented in many various countries and United Kingdom included, we decided to organize these webinars to show you what this company is, what we find out about the company, and also to tell you more about their plans in the UK and and how they work in how they work as a company, how they think, and what is their modus operandi. As it was previously mentioned, we made a report about the EPH, which is we tried to collect a comprehensive report about Daniel Kretinsky. He is the owner of the EPH and his companies, but not only EPH is the biggest company. He has other companies, but we've been writing about all of his businesses because we think it's important for the context of who the owner of the EPH is and how the EPH is operating. So this report is not just about coal and gas, but also about media ownership, about the biomass, about the waste industry, and also about, in general, about the economy and how the EPH is building their connections with politicians, but also how they are hiding the money in tax havens and so on. Our main hypothesis or our main conclusion is that we see EPH as a threat for climate and democracy. And now I will tell you why. We will start with the most, let's say, basic or most visible thing around the EPH. EPH is the biggest coal emissions in Europe, and only in coal power plants they have the higher emissions than the whole Finland, for example. So they are really big coal company, They own mines and power plants not only in Czech Republic, where Daniel Kretinsky is from, and this is the reason why we are made a report about them, but also in Germany, Slovakia, France, Italy, and also Great Britain. You maybe know the Kilroot and also the Eggborough. Eggborough is closed as far as I know, but yeah, they have other gas plants. I will be talking about it more, but Kilroot is still operating. What is really important to say about the EPH is their business strategy in energy is that they were buying old power plants and mines and trying to profit from the coal phase out. They bought in Germany. They bought power plants and mines from Vattenfall, because Vattenfall as a Sweden corporation, they were trying to get rid of emissions, and then they didn't close the power plants but sell them to EPH, and EPH were able to gain a compensation from the German government. Also, they were trying to get capacity payments and also other money from the states and from other states. So basically, what they are trying to do is to build the old coal power plants, and not to rebuild them or prolong them, but to gain money on closing them, and then took the money and invest them into the gas infrastructure. We will see how they are, specifically in the United Kingdom. The strategy is really well developed, and I will show it in the other slide. What is really also important is that they are now the only company that is delaying a coal phase out in Germany, as Germany is heading to the direction of coal phase out in 2030. But the EPH is the only company that wants to dig coal and burn coal also after 2030. It's the only company in Germany. So yeah, they are trying to delay the coal phase out, but also to get the money on coal phase out, which they are quite successful in it. But what is really important, specifically for your context in the United Kingdom, they are also the gas corporation, and they are still the largest independent importer of gas from Russia, or they were before the war. Now, as we are getting out of the Russian gas, it's a little bit changing, but still they were the ones who had the managerial control over the whole route where the gas from Russia was going through the Ukraine and Slovakia, so the one route. Also, they have a power plants in Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia, France, Italy, Ireland, Netherlands, and Great Britain. I will be talking much more about it in the next slide. But apart from that, they have the biggest plans for gas expansion among all the energy companies in Europe. So they are basically the most visible example of a company that is trying to switch from coal to gas. They want to add almost 6 gigawatts of a new gas power plants. They want to add into the European grid. But yeah, so it make them the biggest. And yeah, so as I said previously, they are trying to get the money from the end of coal and trying to invest them into the new gas infrastructure, new gas power plants, and so on and so on. Here I can say more about, because most of you are from the United Kingdom, so I included a slide about their gas plants in United Kingdom. They have quite a big plan in the UK, and actually they have the biggest. Let's say it's the country where they plan to invest most in the extension of the gas infrastructure. They plan new gas units in Eggborough, worth 1 billion, but also in Kilroot they plan to build, and still also in the King's Lynn B, but yeah, I find also from some sources that they might halt this project, but we will see. But still, it is announced, and most of the construction they plan to start in this power plant. They plan to start this year or next year, and it can be from 3 to 4 at almost or more than 4 gigawatts new gas energy and power plants that they plan to include into just only in the UK. What is also important, and it fits with the strategy that I already mentioned, that EPH is trying to get as much money from the public sources as possible, is that they will receive the capacity payments from UK government. Capacity payments, it's a type of public subsidies when you have a power plant for as gas power plant, and you are not operating it whole year, or even though you are using it only for the specific moments where, for example, renewables is not operating, but you are a private company and the government is paying you to operate the power plant, even when if you are not burning gas and not yeah, even if you are not burning gas and it's closed, but the government is paying you to operate it because at some moments the grid need it. So they are and most of their gas companies will have from the next year, they won the auction on it, and they will have all his free gas power plants, Eggborough, Southampton, King's Lynn B, and Oslo Engage will have contracts on capacity payments, and the new units in Eggborough and King's Lynn B, they will have the contracts for next 15 years. And for Eggborough, it will worth for the 15 years, it will worth 830 millions just for the Eggborough, in the public money that will go. Sorry, just from the public money that will go to the company. Yeah, so basically their plans are quite huge in UK in the gas expansion, and as they plan to build new units in Eggborough, for example, and King's Lynn B, they are building it without the risk because they already have they already won the auction on the capacity payment, so they know that it would be profitable, even though maybe that wouldn't be profitable for them because they will not run the power plants a whole year, but they will be profitable because the UK government will subsidize it through the capacity payment. So this is the situation in UK, and why I think it's important to talk about EPH also in the context of your country. What we are writing in the report, what you can find in the report, is also some history of the EPH, which is not known in the countries where they are operating, and which can describe the vulture-like strategy that they are using. They started in 2009 and started with some shady deal with Czech energy company Czech, and they bought the their first coal assets in Germany, from Mebrach. It's close to Leipzig, and also some power plants in Czech Republic. But this cooperation with Czech made 76 million loss for the Czech state, because Czech is half or mostly Czech, is mostly state owned, and the totally new company EPH made a really huge profit from this. The key is that the prime minister at the time was the guy on the picture, the Miroslav Topolánek, and he, after he ended in the politics, he started to work as a manager in EPH, and until now he is working for EPH. So there is some type of the revolving door strategy, revolving door corruption strategy that EPH used with from the first time they get into the. What was the most important for the expansion of EPH, or how they was able to build such a big corporation that is so big as it is now, was the deal with the Slovak government in 2013, when when the Slovak government privatized half of or sold half of their gas company, and the EPH were able to get the managerial and financial control over the transport of gas from Russia. So they and of the company Eustream. So they made and it was really and until the last year, until the start of the war in Ukraine, it was a very profitable business. So, and for Slovakian government, it also caused a big loss because they had the financial and managerial control over the part of the company that were creating loss. So it was against the shady government, shady agreement that Daniel Kretinsky and EPH were able to make with the Slovak government. And from that time, they started their expansion. So mostly the expansion of EPH, and the reason why they are so big is that they had the secured high profit from transition of the gas from Russia. And after that, they started bought the other power plants in Germany, in Italy, in France, and so on and so on. Even though they, as I mentioned, they are gaining a lot of money from public, and from they are gaining a lot of public money. They don't want to pay much taxes. The companies connected with the EPH or with the Kretinsky mostly resides in Cyprus, Luxembourg, or Panama. And what happened at the end of the last year, when the Czech government proposed the windfall tax in Czech Republic, the EP Commodities, one of the daughters of EPH, said that they will leave Czech Republic because they don't want to pay the windfall tax. So it is another example of how a vulture-like strategy EPH is using. What is also really important is that EPH is not, or the business of Daniel Kretinsky is not connected only with the energy infrastructure. They also own media, especially in Czech Republic. They are owner of one of the biggest publishing house in Czech Republic, and it create a lot. And it made a lot of changes in Czech public discourse, because the media is mostly anti-climate movement, and also anti-climate, and the editor in chief from his media mostly often the people from climate movements, calling us green Taliban, eco-terrorists, and other names. But also Kretinsky is active in the French media landscape. For example, he owns or co-owned the Le Monde and Marianne, and also he made a loan to Libération. So yeah, there are also these connections. He didn't try to buy the media yet in the United Kingdom, but I can imagine that maybe if he will feel that it can help his position in the country, he will do it. We'll see. We see this strategy to buying a media and trying to persuade people and influence the public debate as a strategy of disinformation around climate that is happening last 40 years, but the EPH is very active in this field, and we'll see how we do that. This, yeah, our report is contain also the information about the other part of his business. Yeah, as I mentioned, we are mentioning there a lot about his biomass business, which is unsustainable, but it will be Almut and Karen will be talking more about it, so I will not be telling much about his biomass business. What is important is, for example, that he is also involved in the waste management, and specifically in Czech Republic, his companies, Kretinsky's companies, they are trying to slow down the recirculation processes in Czech Republic. They are the owners of the they are the biggest owners of landfills in Czech Republic, for example, but also the waste incinerator, but also they own the waste incinerator, and they have some other plans to build new waste incinerators in Czech Republic, also in Germany, and so on. And yeah, they are involved in greenwashing, and what is important, why we think and what we are really afraid is that they have the Kretinsky have a really good connection with PPF, which is the biggest Czech financial group, and the owner of the financial group died 2 years ago in Aljaška, and he was the richest Czech person, and now there are fights over the influence in PPF, and Kretinsky have really good starting positions to win the fight over the PPF, as he is dating his 4 years. He's dating a daughter of the former owner who died in Aljaška. He's dating 4 years his daughter, so he has and yeah, so it can happen really quickly that his corporation will grow much bigger because of the fusion or some connections with this PPF, and he will be involved also in the other types of businesses. Yeah, and is also the owner of a football clubs in Czech Republic. He owns Sparta Prague, which is quite famous football club here, but also in UK he is the owner of the West Ham United. We see it as as um, as he is trying to somehow working on his public relations, or to be seen in the public as a good person, something like that. That he is trying to build his social license on also on buying football clubs and these things. Yeah, the last part of our report is about some kind of solutions that we are presenting. And yeah, as I mentioned, we were and still are focusing on the financial institutions. So we were able to find the banks and insurers that are supporting the EPH business, and mostly the two biggest bank supporters of the EPH are Societe Generale in Czech Republic, Komerční banka, and Unicredit Bank. And we started we already started the campaign aiming Societe Generale with the demand to stop cooperation with EPH. And also among, for example, among the insurers, there is Generali who is supporting them, and we are proposing there quite a few also political solutions. Some of them are based in the EU legislations or in the EU level, and some of them are on the national states. That's yeah, let's see, all from my presentation. and we can do the discussion, and I will send here. You can see my email if you want to send me some message or something like that, or propose some kind of cooperation, because we are in each countries, we are trying to build the connections with the organizations working in climate and other environmental NGOs. So if you want to work with us on the topic of EPH, just don't hesitate to send me an email. And I'm also on Facebook and Twitter if you want to reach me or something like that. And I'll
Yes, thank you very much, Radek. Before we start presenting on biomass, there are a couple of questions. One is, at the beginning you said you referred to the picture, who's in the picture, and I think there was a second page of the report. People were asking, what picture, basically, just to remind you. And the second question is, you referred to a UK politician working for EPH. Can you say again who that is, or maybe type the name in the chat, please?
Yeah, there was what I was talking was not the UK politician. It was the Czech former Prime Minister Miroslav Topolánek. But there are articles also about the connections of EPH with each politicians in UK. I can find it. I forgot the name of the one, but there is definitely one, and it was also the article in the Guardian. And I can find it and send it. And the picture, if you mean from the second page of the presentation, then it was Daniel Kretinsky. It was the owner of the owner of the EPH. Sorry for not mentioning that.
Great. So I will start the presentation off, and then I'll hand over to Karen, who will continue it. So first of all, I've put a map and a list of the biomass plants that we know of, both biomass plants and co-firing plants, so coal and biomass. On the left-hand side is from a report that the NGO Fern published last year about EPH's biomass investments. What you see here is the ones in black are coal plants, the ones in brown are biomass plants, and the ones that are in brown and black are co-firing plants. And then I wrote out a list of what the biggest, what they are. However, I must say that there have been a few changes, so the map doesn't 100% map. So the plant one in France is not on the map. They overlap, but there are one or two little changes. So just to say, they've got quite a lot of biomass investments, and they're still planning new ones. Okay. Oops. There we go. So the biggest ones, as you can see already, with 420 megawatts, is Lyenemouth Power Station. It's the UK's second biggest biomass plant after the absolute worldwide giant Drax. Lyenemouth Power Station can burn up to 1.6 million tons of wood pellets. They are all imported, mostly from North America. In reality, they burned a bit less. I think last year was just over 1.2 million tons, but that's a huge amount, given that you need 2 tons of freshly cut wood to make 1 ton of wood pellets. So that's in Northumberland, near, kind of near Alnwick. Now, where do the pellets come from? I already said mainly North America. 800,000 tons a year come from Enviva in the United States. They have a contract until the current subsidy contract expires in 2027 with Enviva. And we will hear a lot more about Enviva from Karen, who just visited places in North Carolina where a lot of the pellet Enviva's plants are. Most of the rest come from Western Canada. They are produced by Drax. A small amount comes from European countries, mostly the Baltic states. So since I won't show you anything about in vivo, I'm showing you a picture instead from British Columbia. This is the remains of a forest, what was a primary old growth forest that was clear cut close to one of Drax's pellet mills in British Columbia. And some of you may have seen that there was an investigation. So some of you in the UK will be aware that the BBC showed a panorama program about Drax directly cutting down old growth ancient forests in British Columbia for its pellets. And there was a similar one shown by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC. And yeah, I mean, and here with a quote from Michelle Connolly from the Environmental Organization Conservation North in BC, saying that basically the wood pellet industry and the logging of old growth forests in British Columbia go hand in hand at the moment. So again, I'm including Drax here because Lyenemouth is the only external pellet customer Drax has in the UK, apart from, you know, Drax obviously burning some of those pellets itself. Okay, then looking at Germany. Now, Germany was not included in the biomass map because that was about biomass plants burning wood. However, in Germany, the EPH has over the last few months started investing very heavily in wood pellet production. So their German portfolio is now, you know, is now not only the lignite, lignite mines, lignite power stations, but also pellet production. Next one. No, I thought I had another one about this. No, this one. I mixed them up, sorry. So, and this is really a really big deal because Germany is Europe's biggest pellet producer, not relative to population. They're not a big exporter, but they are the biggest wood pellet producer in all of Europe. And LEAG, which is the German subsidiary of EPH, is now Germany's single biggest pellet producer within Germany, with 500,000 ton capacity across 4 plants. This is one, you know, like the other photo earlier that somebody from the NGO Robin Wood took of the Wismar pellet plant, where you can see they are, you know, they are really pelletizing round wood, whole stems, some of them from really pretty big trees, you know, cut down in Europe, in Germany. You know, why are they doing this? Well, one is they are obviously selling, wanting to sell the pellets to others. However, there's amongst German biomass campaigners, there's also real concern that they could be looking to go quite big into co-firing with lignite in future. The reason is that last year they invited offers of between 1 and 2 million tons of wood, which we believe is additional to the wood supplies they already had when they took over the pellet plants. We haven't nobody's found evidence of co-firing yet, but if they started that, they could actually, it would actually co-subsidize the burning of coal because there's no, they would be looking for an exemption from the carbon dioxide tax that they currently have to pay on their lignite plants. So it's kind of would be cross-subsidizing coal burning if they go down that route, and it's a worry. But right now it's pellet production. And sorry, that was in the wrong place. So that's Germany. Then in France, there is a Gardanne Power Station that is the biggest biomass burning plant in mainland France. It's actually one unit of what was a bigger coal power, what was used to be 4 coal power units. It was converted to biomass uniLy by Uniper. Well, I don't know, I think it might have been even before E.ON and then Uniper. Uniper then didn't make it work. So they tried to burn wood there and it didn't work out technically. They ran into a lot of problems. They then sold it to EPH, and EPH invested a lot of money into it, so as to operate it on biomass. Just to say a couple of important facts there are that this power station, this biomass plant, has been really fought against by environmental groups and also communities in the Provence region because of the huge new demand for wood and the impacts of it. There have been court cases ongoing since right from the start, I think from about 2011 when it all started. Very recently, about a month ago, the permit was ruled unlawful. The permit has been withdrawn, but the plant still has a temporary permit to operate, and it keeps going back and forth to the courts. They burn 850,000 tons of wood chips, and amongst the wood chips have been ones from eucalyptus plantations in the Brazilian Amazon, which are linked to illegal land grabbing. You know, really horrible situation that small farmers have been fighting to reclaim their lands from this company that's supplying Gadan for many years. Okay, so that's an overview of the main ones. Just to say, they are looking to build a smaller new biomass plant of 20 megawatt in France as well. So they're looking to expand there. And I won't go too much into the climate impacts because Karen will say a little bit more, but worth noting that this is, you know, that hundreds of scientists, here letter signed by 800 scientists in 2018. So hundreds of scientists have signed letters and spoken out to say that, you know, cutting down and burning wood will transform large reductions that would otherwise be achieved through renewable energy targets with wind and solar, instead into large increases in carbon in the atmosphere by 2050. And of course, that's not only the EU Renewable Energy Directive, but also the same is true for the UK renewable energy policies that subsidize big biomass and classify it as zero carbon when it is no such thing. So yes, Karen.
So I'm Karen van Meer. I work with the Environmental Paper Network, and for those of you who don't know EPN, we are a network of over 200 civil society organizations worldwide. And as the name says, we focus on the pulp industry, but we also focus on the biomass sector because since I think 8 or 10 years now, because we started to realize that in our work on the pulp sector, we realized that the biomass sector was competing for the same feedstock and causing major deforestation across the globe. What we do as a network is that we try to connect NGOs with each other. We try to be a platform where we create resources that NGOs are welcome to use. We try to find be a platform where NGOs can find ways to collaborate together. And one of the ways that we do that is by creating working groups. And I coordinate 2 of those working groups who focus on the financial institutions behind either the pulp sector or the biomass sector. As I said, we try to create resources that are useful for our members. One of these resources is a package of very great images like this one, like the one you see at the moment, that people can use or members can use on social media and in their communications. And I thought it would be nice to start off with a beautiful image. Then Almut already explained it a little bit, but I thought it was important to share with you the carbon myth of biomass. Biomass officially is not only defined by many governments like the EU as a renewable source of energy, it's also officially defined as zero emissions, at least in the energy sector. So officially, the emissions of the biomass sector are not accounted for in the energy sector. They are accounted for in the land sector. So if you look at the numbers, companies like EPH are able to state that they emit zero emissions when they burn biomass. because of this loophole. Well, however, in reality, this is the case. So it's just as much CO2 emissions as fossil fuels per unit of energy. This is because you have to account the emissions of biomass in the land sector, meaning that you have to account for the emissions at the place where you cut down a tree instead of at the smokestack. That's why companies like EPH can say they are carbon neutral or they don't emit anything because they outsource their emissions. Officially, they have to account for at the place where a tree is being cut down, which in the case of EPH is either Southeast United States or British Columbia, like Lyenemouth already explained. However, no one is checking if this is happening, and I don't think it's happening at the level it should be happening. So coal to biomass actually is a false solution. It seemed like a good idea in the beginning, but in reality, it's not. So when we talk about one of the biggest company of which EPH is importing biomass or wood pellets, that's Enviva, and Enviva is operating primarily in Southeast US. As you can see on the map here, these are all the wood pellets facilities in the southern US. The circles around each dot represents the sourcing area, and the bigger the circle, the darker the circle. The bigger the circle, the bigger the area. Also, the bigger the dot, the bigger the pellet plant. I recently, last week, visited one of these areas at North Carolina, which is on the right side of the map. I visited facilities there, but also the clear-cut areas like this one. As you can see, it's just an entire area being clear-cut. And this is being done by Enviva, the company that is selling wood pellets to EPH. As you can see, what biomass companies often do is they say that they officially only burn residues, so waste wood. However, what you can see, what they leave at the clear cuts is actually residues, and that those are the things they don't take with them. Here's another picture of a clear cut. I drove around for about an hour in this area in Northampton, in North Carolina, and I saw, I think, at least 20 of these places where they basically clear cut an entire area. They might leave a couple of trees, and what they also do, what people have been telling me, is that they also do is they either leave it like this, or they cut down, leave a couple of trees standing. So from the road, if you drive past it, it doesn't look like a full clear cut. However, if you then take a side road and go into the forest, you see it's actually a full clear cut. This is the part where this is what I was telling about the residues. Companies like Enviva, they say they only use they don't use entire trees, whole logs, but they say they only use residues. However, this is what they leave in the clear cut, which is clearly, those are the residues that they say they are using, which is an indicator towards the fact that they use entire logs. It's also been told to me that after organizations who work in North and South Carolina documenting Enviva taking entire logs into the wood pellet facility, that after they documented it and they publicized it, and the media picked up on it, after that Enviva switched its practices from crunching the trees into smaller parts at the wood pellet facility, they now do it directly at the clear cut, so they can, instead of having to put entire trees on a truck, which cannot be done. You can clearly spot it from the outside because the trees are on the truck. They now cut it down into smaller pieces at the site, so they can put it into a closed truck. So you can't track them. You cannot track them anymore. And Viva is also saying that they are replanting the clear cuts, or they are making sure that the owners of the land replant it. Well, this is not happening. The only places that I saw that were regrown were just because nobody did anything with it, and they have regrown themselves, which takes about 50 years to do so, to fully grow back at least. And that's simply time we do not have to combat climate change or the climate crisis. Then, so in terms of environmental destruction, like I said, the industry is basically telling lies. They say they don't clear cut, but they do. They say they will replant the forest, but they don't do this. They say they only use residues, but they use entire logs. And they say they are carbon neutral or low carbon, which they are clearly not, but they are officially allowed and legally allowed to say this because of the carbon accounting loophole in the UNFCCC. Because of this, the coastal forests in the US, southern US are under great threat. And this is really a bad thing, because those are the protection against the climate crisis, especially because those coastal forests are extremely biodiverse, but they also form the protection against flooding, for instance, which with the rising sea levels is a mitigation measure you want to keep in place instead of clear cutting it. Then there are also a lot of health impacts in this area because of the air and noise pollution of the wood pellets. These wood pellets are being placed very close to people's homes. I've seen homes that are less than a mile from such a wood pellet facility, and those facilities are they are massive. They go on 24/7 a day, 24/7 hours. And they make a lot of noise. So I spoke with people who told me that they haven't slept more than 3 hours straight in the past 5 till 10 years, just because of the noise pollution. There's a lot of wood dust that comes along with, that is being produced in the process of turning entire trees into wood pellets. This wood dust is polluting people's, causing health impacts, because they suffer from lung diseases. They have to get to the doctor a lot of times, and because Enviva is placing these wood pellet facilities mostly in Black and brown communities who already suffered from many other industries that have targeted their polluted and targeted their community. We also call this environmental injustice, because they've already suffered so much, and this is, in many places, this is often the fifth or the sixth industry that comes along and targets their well-being, their basic human rights, and that's why we call it environmental injustice. That's it, what I wanted to share for now.